Bio&Me is one of the UK's fastest growing gut health food brands. It was co-founded by Jon Walsh and renowned gut health expert Dr. Megan Rossi, and the brand offers a range of award-winning granolas, porridges and live kefir yoghurts, all built around the principle that diverse, plant-based ingredients are the key to better gut health. The last time I had Jon on the show was 4 years ago, when the brand was turning over just a few £1 million in sales. But now Bio&Me is stocked nationwide in UK grocery and food service and has annual sales of between £15 to £20 million. Jon and I talk about the different phases of business growth and what you need to be obsessed with at each stage, and about their laser focus on product quality and just how difficult it can be to find the right balance between communicating around health and taste. Let's dive in. Jon Walsh of Bio&Me, welcome to Brand Growth Heroes.
Hello, Fee. Nice to see you again.
It is lovely to see you too. Have you got your coffee or your tea or whatever you're on these days?
I've got my tea. There it is, my big mug of tea.
Good man. Thank you so much for coming back. It's been 4 years since we recorded our first episode with
It has.
Yeah, you and Megan, and you were, you just hit 1 million in either revenue or RSV at the time. And now you were a big, successful, scaled gut health brand. Where are we at these days in terms of size or scale?
We were just talking about being a paranoid CEO. I mean, we've grown a lot, but you can't use the successful word yet. We've still got so much more to do. But it's been amazing, Fee. If I look at consumer reaction, like the number of fans' comments we still get, we were just talking about the importance of consumers and how big the gut health trend is. It's amazing. If I look at retailer support, just because the trend is so big, because we're growing so fast, it's incredible. I just didn't, the retail's just been extraordinary for us. And then, the money side's really good. So, we were remembering, weren't we, that we were about 1 million back then. We're a tiny bit coy about what we share, but we're about between 15 to 20 million, let's say, towards the higher side of that. So, it's growing really well. And if you think that's only 4 years ago when we were around about the 1 million mark. Yeah, no, Megan's always telling me, by the way, when we're talking about Megan, that's Dr. Megan Rossi, my co-founder. She's the gut health doctor. So she makes all of our products, does lots of our socials. She's my co-founder. She would have been here today if she possibly could have been. We do most things together. We're co-founders.
So Megan would have been here today.
Oh yeah, she's always saying to me, don't sound surprised. Sound like this is exactly what we expected. And of course, we believed it. I've given up my life for the last 5 years. So's Megan to make this happen. So I believed it was going to work. But nonetheless, the joy in how well it is going, and to have those kind of revenues coming in and that kind of support from retailers and our fans, it's amazing.
So how does it split between cereals and dairy and anything else that you do in between channel? Let's give listeners who are not in the UK a picture of what this business actually sells and where it sells it.
Okay, so look, I know most people listen, but look, there is a pack of Bio&Me. There's one of our granolas, and here is one of our kefir yoghurts, and that pretty much summarizes our range. So on the granolas and porridge and muesli side, Megan designed those first because they talk about her principle of plant-based diversity. So the more different plant fibers you get into your tummy, the better. And that's why we do the cereals, because if we talk about purpose, we talk about vision, our whole raison d'etre is to be the best for your gut health. And like on your MBA that we were just talking about, some brands really have to work through what they stand for, why they are better. Because if you're going to be a challenger brand, you have to be the best at something. For us, it was always obvious from day one, it's about gut health. And the cereals, the way we do that is through the different diversity of fibers.
I love the way you just said that. You just said, and the way we do that is da 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 da. Beautiful, because that's one of the things we actually do. It's one of the exercises we do in the mini MBA is, so this is our vision, this is our purpose, this is where we want to be, and this is the change we want to make in the world. And the way we do that actually is our mission. Every day we make and deliver the very best cereals that are going to deliver the best gut health or whatever it is. So thank you for that live example.
We were talking through different roles, like big companies versus little companies, and believe you me, strategy is important. And if you are just, starting your own company, working out how you're going to be better is super important. But once that is done, it is all about execution. So on the cereal side, yeah, all about plant-based diversity. Then on the kefirs, it's about the number. So we have 18. We add in 18 particular good for your gut live and active culture strains, but two of those especially have the most scientific proof that they actually do some good. So we might come on and talk a little bit about brands who are just hoying, different bits and bobs in where there's no scientific proof at all, but Megan would never, she just selects the very, very best strains that go in. So that's how, and I really don't want to sound arrogant or complacent, or because we work incredibly hard and at times it's very difficult to do. But what gets me out of bed in the morning is I know that our kefirs are the best for your gut health in the market. I know our granolas are the best for your gut health
How do you know that?
because we can test versus all the other brands.
So you test you give them to people over a period of time and see how their gut health improves, the diversity of bacteria in their gut health, or how do you do it?
Almost every food has to put their ingredients on their packaging, so we can analyze what they've got in there. On the culture side, not all, but most brands claim how many cultures they put in there, and we can see that we put in more.
Okay.
But that is, it's not to be arrogant because that is our role. Let's compare versus the big companies. They're very good at managing the middle of the categories. That's where the volume is. But sort of by definition, therefore, their products have to be a bit average. That's how they dominate the middle ground. As a challenger brand, you've got to come in and be the best. And in granolas and porridges, when we came in with a gut health proposition, we were the first into that category. So it was relatively easy to be the best for gut health in truth on that side. On kefirs, we weren't the first. Some brilliant brands were there. Biotiful were there, Yo Valley were there, etc. So, to earn our space on shelf alongside brilliant brands like that, you've got to have something different about you. And in our case, it's gut health and you've got to be the best. So we obsess about it. By the way, we've talked all about gut health. You've also got to taste nice. Like we're a food. So we obsess about two things. One, the gut health side, and two, the taste. Very often they can go together. So what was lovely on our granolas is the more different nuts, seeds, fruits you put in, the diversity also makes it taste nice. The thing I didn't understand at all is with live and active cultures, they also, because of the fermentation process, can really impact like the creaminess, taste, texture of the yogurts as well. So the two things go together. I mean, that's the joy of food, which I love so much. So yeah, that's where the magic happens.
I'm thrilled to introduce Brand Growth Hero's newest partner, Jolson. Jolson is a leading B Corp certified commercial law firm that specialises in guiding the founders of scaling CPG brands. With long-term relationships with clients like Little Moons, Trip, Eat Natural, Bear, Graze and Pulson, Jolson is also famous for advising the Innocent founders in their landmark sale to Coca-Cola. And believe it or not, they still work with the Innocent founders at Jam Jar Investments today. I'm especially impressed by how Jolson sets founders up for long-term success and by their commitment to championing female founders. Recently, I asked managing partner Paul Chappie, why does a scaling brand need a corporate lawyer?
So you definitely need someone that's going to have your back, that is going to be looking at those pitfalls that may be coming in the future, preferably someone that knows the industry, because having that context is really important when negotiating, be that commercial agreements or funding arrangements. And at the end of the day, you really need to have someone that you can trust and obviously can negotiate hard when they need to.
Huge thanks to Brand Growth Heroes podcast sponsors, Jolson. Now let's get back to the show. One of the things that I think I struggle with, and everyone I have worked with over the years struggles with, is when you've got a product that has a health functional benefit, how do you balance, first of all, how do you work out which is more important to communicate? Because obviously taste, everyone says, taste is the most important. And of course taste is the most important because if it doesn't taste nice, no one will eat it. But when you're communicating that, how do you find the balance between communicating the health benefit and the taste? It'll be different for every category and it'll be different for every brand because obviously at dinner, You want to earn more on the taste, a lot more on the taste at one end of the spectrum. And at breakfast, people potentially want something a little bit more tasty or earthy or functional or kind of like worthy tasting in inverted commas. Where have you come out with that after 30 years in consumer packaged goods?
30 years in consumer packaged goods fee, 5 years doing bio and me, and guess what? We're still debating it.
Okay, great.
We're still debating it every day. In fact, we're just kicking off a new project now that I'll talk about.
Can I just say that is bloody brilliant news? Because everyone out there thinks, I'll tell you why. Because
There's an
everybody,
answer,
including me, thinks that there's an answer and they're getting it wrong.
Yeah, no, it's a balance, obviously. And I remember being quite not shocked and pleased. Anyway, when we first launched, because beforehand, we'd made everything, our USP was gut health. We knew it had to taste nice, but everything was zoomed in on gut health. And then as soon as we went online, as soon as we went into Boots and Whole Foods and Planet Organic, we started getting messages from consumers, almost like 100%, like there was probably one or two that spoke about gut health. They were all just like, oh my God, you taste nice. Because I think there is such this massive consumer impression still. And if one thing we could change, it would be this, which is healthy stuff tastes like cardboard. Healthy stuff doesn't taste nice. So I think we know from a product point of view, you've got to taste nice as well as be healthy, because whilst people will try you because of the health benefit, and that's what hooks them in, if they're going to buy you again and again and again, and the convenient truth for us is, if we want to do good for people's gut health, you need to eat us, if not every day, then 5-6 times a week. Whether it's our kefirs, our granolas, it's that regular consumption that's good for your microbiome. That is also, of course, incredibly good for our revenues, because you've got to, so it's all about repeat rate, all about frequency. And if you want that, you need to taste nice, because if you ask people to compromise on taste, they won't. I mean, you know that, I know that. The world is littered with examples where, brilliantly healthy products that tasted awful and they tend to fade away.
Especially when it's a little bit more expensive than other alternatives in the category. And I mean breakfast alternatives, for example. Countless times, I've tried to be really good with my gut health and my extra plants and my, seeds. And I feel like almost guilty saying the word seeds, because there's so many people banging the drums anti-seed oils, but I suppose they're transformed seed oils that they're complaining about. But all those like coenzyme, coex, whatever milled seed stuff that you can buy in packets, and you're supposed to sprinkle it into smoothies and sprinkle it into soups. And great and everything, but it tastes like shit.
So people do it once.
And you do it once, and then the packet is kind of slightly half open if you're me. You zip it once, but then somebody opens it in the house to see what it is, and then they don't like it, and then it doesn't get closed properly. And then the next time you go in, everything's rancid, and then you throw it out, and that was £7 down the drain. So it puts you off.
Your point about a premium, by the way, because the other thing we work really hard at is, we do have to charge a small premium because we put the best quality ingredients in. We really do. And your point about seed oils. So one of the things I think Megan is most proud of is we only use extra virgin olive oil. It's just because that is the highest quality, the lowest antioxidants, et cetera, just so important. But we're only about, the nice thing is we're not as expensive as you might think we are. We're about a 10% price premium versus, the other, very good brands.
Is that per pack or per 100 grams though?
Per 100 grams.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So, we're not, there is a premium, we're in a way. Well, what we are proud of is how small we keep the premium. There has to be a premium because of the quality of our ingredients, but we want to keep it as small as possible because we don't want to be, a super specialist, super premium brand. We want to be as mainstream as we can because everybody deserves good gut health. The more our volumes go up, the more that really helps on the cost of goods side.
In terms of the buckets of revenue still available to you in the market, right? Because I like to see everything in terms of buckets of revenue that we haven't yet tapped into, right? So you're in retail, you're in food service. Are you in all the retailers yet?
We are. I mean, I think the thing that's not completely different, but a bit unique about us is we're in two different categories broadly. We're in cereal and we're in kefir yogurts, kefir drinks. So, if we were a single product category, you would probably say by now we'd have maxed out distribution and it was time to start thinking about international, etc.
Yeah.
For us, that's just not true. We've still got lots more that we can do within our cereal portfolio, within our kefir portfolio. So our focus for the next, however long it takes, 1, 2, 3 years, however long it might be, is to continue to focus on the UK to max out, whether it's with the retailers. We were talking about, I mentioned them at the start, just how supportive, the Tesco's, the Sainsbury's, the Morrisons, the Waitrose, the Asdas, the Ocado, just honestly, I keep. So, by the way, it's my favorite time of year because it's Taste London this week. Almost every single retailer will be there, and it's just such a nice occasion to be able to say thank you. So, we still got lots to do with them. We've got lots to do on the food service out of home side as well. So, we think of that as our discovery channel because we spend relatively small amounts of money on marketing, as in communications and marketing. We do lots of sampling at events, etc. But we think of convenience as one big discovery channel, because if people can have one of our porridge pots or our bars, or we're just launching kefir toppers, so little single serve kefir yogurts with a granola topper on top. If they discover us on a plane, on a train, at work, we do a lot through our offices. It's brilliant because then the next time they're in a supermarket, they buy us, and we can see that. We can see where in high density office locations, the supermarkets near there, are our best sellers. So we spend a lot of time focusing on that.
So, in terms of getting into that level of detail, then when you're executing your, where to play and how to win strategy, are you getting down into kind of geographic hub levels and looking at neighborhoods and seeing which ones are working, just like you've outlined there?
Yes, it changes by retailer, to be honest. So if I take the most extreme geographically, the co-op, where who have famously, a store in every postcode. I think they've got something like 2,500 stores. I mean, incredible. We probably only suit right now 700-800 of those. So working with them to make sure we pick the right ones so that works for them and works for us is really important. If you take, a Sainsbury's or a Tesco, in truth, we've pretty much maxed out on distribution on our biggest SKUs because they do work everywhere. So, so it does change by retailer. But yeah, absolutely, we get down into that detail.
Okay, and then you're talking about in the retailers where you really work really well. I would love to see the side of fridge door packs, as I call them. The square 1 kilogram packs of yogurt from, who am I thinking? U Valley.
A big tub, like a 1 kg tub.
Yeah, but you see, I think that undersells the actual opportunity for it, because the fact that it sits in the side of your door is the big winner
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah.
for your heaviest users.
Yes, I wouldn't want to give away all our secrets. No, but
But you just
that is
have. Boom!
well, just for you, Fee.
Thanks. So, okay, so this is great. So how many people work for you now, or work on the team, work with you, should I say?
15. So yeah, so we are small.
What kind of roles are they in? And the reason I'm asking that question is for those listeners out there who are scaling their brand, coming up behind you guys, and they're thinking, right, when do I need a head of sales? When do I need someone who's looking after ops? At what point do I stop doing all of this work and hand it over? How have you built that business in phases in terms of who does what and where?
It's definitely has gone in phases. I mean, just as a reminder, because we launched in 2019, so we conveniently launched 4 or 5 months before COVID. So that massively impacted the way we grew the team, and the phasing of it. And by the way, if we are now talking, say, to other startup founders, I think that phase at the start where you do all the jobs yourself is brilliant. Because I still love it that every single job inside BioMe I have done.
So important. I always say to people, don't ever recruit for a role that you don't know how to do.
Right. I mean, by the way, there are some people now, pretty much there's 14 of them who will do a better job of me at those jobs. But at least I understand when they come and talk to me now, I've got a frame of reference about what they're talking about. And I understand, because again, we were comparing versus, being a founder versus working in a big corporate, because I spent 20 years working at Nestle and Procter and Gamble and places like that. And it's having that all-round view, because you and I were pretty much marketing specialists at Nestle, and that was we were broadly told, stay in your lane. That's the bit you do. And I didn't appreciate the retailers. I didn't appreciate the operation side.
Well, I think you were probably way more marketing specialised than I was, because I was more business development, I think, all the way through.
Yeah, you probably had a better view of it than I. And I've loved on getting that full-rounded view.
It's also great, isn't it, that when you're recruiting, you know what questions, when you're actually interviewing someone,
Yes.
you can ask a question and you can tell whether their answer is brilliant or not.
Yes.
Because how would you know if you hadn't done the job? How would you know whether that was someone had a really great understanding and way of thinking about something?
And practically, it also means, because we're human beings. People go on holiday, they get ill. If there's a crisis, I can drop in and I can sort of pick stuff up because I know it. The one I still do the most is our customer service, answering the emails, because I love it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I think because we're talking about consumers, and we've just done our first ever brand sort of equity rating study, which was brilliant. It felt like I was back at Nestle doing the good old, and the results were very, very positive. They beat our expectations a lot. But even with that, the richest feedback, we were just talking about doing a larger yogurt size. We know we need to do that because we get asked it on the emails and on socials. It's brilliant. You just need to listen. You don't need to do the big studies anymore. So I like dropping in and doing that.
How did you measure brand equity?
We used YouGov. We went out to 2,000 consumers. We rated our brand versus about 20 others.
Was it in terms of propensity to purchase, or in terms of how do you feel about it, or?
More on the equity side.
But what's the question? Because I don't understand how you actually asked that question.
So we had some quite soft. Well, there was one about do you plan to buy? But then there was is it a brand you love? And then we asked them to rate on things like, is a brand that tastes good, is a brand that is best for your gut health, etc. And we went through those. So they were the aspects that we were most interested in to know.
I see. It's like a composite. Do you get a composite score at the end? Did you? Or
Yes.
You do. Okay.
Yes.
Really clever. And did you design this equity rating?
Myself and Mike, our marketing director, did.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, because it goes back to that point about, I know, we know our products are the best. That's one thing. And again, don't want to sound arrogant. We work very hard to do it. But then it's like, is that translating through? Like, do consumers believe it? And, are they seeing the difference? Because that's what really matters. If they're not getting the difference, and by the way, then, for the people who do see the difference, are they going on and buying? Is their purchase intent higher or lower? So when you ask, do we ask the person? We do, but we ask it last because we want to know, first of all, what do they think about us? And then we can see, does that change purchase intent? And happily it does.
So, John, I'm really interested, though, that you didn't use Net Promoter Score. Everyone talks about Net Promoter Score as if it's like the absolute dogs, whatever, in brand marketing. I feel like that is really reductionist, using Net Promoter Score, which for anyone who is wondering what it is, it's you add up all the scores of the people who've spoken positively about the brand and add up the scores of the people who've spoken negatively about the brand, and then you end up with some kind of average.
Yeah.
Which is fine and everything. But it's quite global, right? And it might be great for, tech and service and all of that. But if you want to know how the brand tastes and how the brand people feel about it, you've designed something that's particular for your brand. I just feel like that is much, I was going to say righter, much cleverer in food and beverage,
You know what? This is the first proper conversation I've had about it. It just felt like a very logical, obvious thing to do to us. I mean, the points I suppose I'd make are we didn't do it until year 5. We just spent the first 5 years making sure we were executing our strategy. If we were going to say we are the best, then you better go out there and do it. So it wasn't until year 5, and then when it came to measure it, we had such precise questions we wanted to know about that using a sort of generic study wouldn't have got anywhere near. So, it wasn't cheap. It wasn't that expensive either, but it was £2,000, £3,000, £4,000. So it's an investment, which is why we didn't do it until year 5.
How will you use the results?
Right, I love this, Fee. We're jumping around, aren't we? Because when you asked about the brand earlier, I said there's a live project. We were talking about the importance of taste versus which is more important, taste versus gut health. We never got to the end of that one. So we are using that brand equity study to now inform. So we are going back and looking at I mean, I'll say everything. I mean, our strategy is not going to change. We are going to be about being the best for gut health, but how we communicate it, setting out, we're looking at everything, and it starts off with exactly that debate about on our packaging, in our comms, at our events, in our socials, everywhere. What's the balance between talking about, well, what's the best way to talk about gut health and why we're the best, and then what's the balance with taste, and it will change by channel. It will be a balance. So when we were saying earlier, we were still debating it, and you were like, thank heavens, because I think founders do put themselves under pressure to think there is a correct answer, and I just need to pick what is the correct answer. I mean, it won't. It is a question of balance, and it will change for each individual brand. You've just got to work out, how you want to do it. And Mike, our marketer, would slightly tip me off for saying this, but I think if we look at the phases of development of the company, we obsessed about our products. First of all, we really had a very, Megan, the gut health doctor, everything had to be the very best on the gut health side, of course. Then I think, happily, we became very retailer obsessed. This was the new discovery for me, moving marketing into sales. Just the criticality and the growth potential of the retailer is amazing. So we spent 3-4 years just obsessing about that. It's not to say we've done an awful lot on the brand and marketing side, but I think now we're going to really obsess about the comms aspect of that and really drill down into it, because that's going to be the next phase of our growth. We've got a lot from distribution, etc., and we're seeing our rates of sale go up and up and up. But now, but we need more of that, and that really comes down to the brand and comms. So that's going to be our next area of focus. Yeah. So that's what we're going to use it for.
That's brilliant. Okay. And we also digressed from the team question I asked earlier.
We did.
So you've got 15
people. Yeah, 14 plus me.
So there's you've talked about Dr. Megan, obviously, as your co-founder, and then you've talked about your marketing director. Talk to us about who else, what other roles there are.
We do digress, don't we?
That's okay.
So we've got a small marketing team of 3 people. Within our 2 largest teams, which you would expect, is our sales team and our operations team. Our operations team is 4 people, which is perhaps more than other brands of our size, but that's because we have quite a broad product range. So we have our granolas, we have our porridges, we have porridge pots, we have our bars, and we have our kefir drinks and yogurts. We create all of those through partnerships. We co-manufacture everything. So we have to get those absolutely perfect. So there's a big team that does that. But then I think to most founders, I would say, the largest part of your team at this stage should be on the sales side, because the fastest way to grow is distribution. Retailers are human beings too. They need, they want to talk to you. They need to be treated in the right way. They're not, it's not a numbers game. It's not even really a data game. I think it's a relationship game at the start. You've got to tell your story, explain why you're better, and then get a good rate of sale. And that requires a team. So we have our commercial team with Emma, the commercial director leads, and that's really important for us.
Do you all sit in an office, or do you work from home? And how do you create culture, and how does everyone get to know each other? They're working far away, etc.
So I mentioned about COVID before and how it really affected things, and also, because most people know this, but I'm currently sat in the University of Chester, so we rent an office from the uni here, which is great of them. So there's 8 of us who are in Chester and 7 who work from home, basically, all over. Cambridge, London, Wiltshire, all over. So we refer to Chester as the hub, and then I guess everybody else is the spokes, or some crazy analogy. But I mean, and it's worked for us. It's not one I would have picked. I think, being 54, I would have been very old-fashioned and wanted everybody in an office because, and it's still probably, I think, on honestly true, that culture is so important, and doing that in an office is easier than with everybody at home. I know you can do it with everybody at home, but I think it is harder. I think it is just having daily, interactions, the jokes, the laughs, just
Totally
the
agree.
spontaneity. Yeah, it is, it's not impossible, but it's, and I see founders talking about it and they can do it. But I think it's an advantage, it's a competitive advantage if you can all be in the same place. So 7 or 8 of us are. We then spend a lot of time. So Emma gets her whole team together once a month. We get the whole company together 3 times a year, and these are my favorite times. So in July we'll go away for 3 days, and it's just brilliant. And I think if you do that, we have a weekly call. So we were just talking about how long we can chat now, because at 11 o'clock each Monday we do our weekly call, and absolutely you can do it. You just need to put the effort in. And when we were talking about phases of the growth of a company, I think I'm now really understanding my job, which at the start was doing everything. Now, is much more around, the team development side of things, the size of, how many people we want, the right kind of people, the culture. I don't know if this surprised you or not, but we've done no work on team values until now because we didn't need to. We talked about it. But everybody who joined was so obviously aligned to our vision that it just, the people who we want, when we selected the kinds of people that we wanted. But now that we're 15, which is still small, but now is the right time for us actually to start to sort of to write down and do some more traditional work, because hopefully we're going to go from 15 to 20 to 25 to 30, and right now I can say hello to everybody in the morning, but soon I won't be able to. And just having a little bit of, I don't know, is formality the right word, but cementing those values now, because otherwise we could lose it. And I really don't want us to lose our startup spirit, our focus on gut health. So our 3 days away in the summer is going to be focused on that.
I think that's great. I think it's brilliant. And I think what I would say to those founders listening is that as long as you're aware that everyone needs to share the same values, and when you're bringing people on, it would be great if they also shared and amplified those values. You don't necessarily need to go and do something about it straight away, but you need
No.
to make a conscious decision. Yes, I understand this. Yes, I know it's important. Yes, we're all aligned and I don't need to do anything about it now. Or shit, it's when you don't know about these things and you haven't looked out for them or nurtured them or kind of put any manners on them that they can cause a problem. If you're conscious and you're consciously making a decision that it's not something for right now, then that's cool.
I think that's spot on.
It's a bit like all aspects of strategy, I think, because you're talking a lot about all of the work you're doing to understand your brand, the value of your brand, your consumer, and all of that is about how to win. Yeah, which is one of the
Yeah.
key strategic questions. What do we want to be? Where are we going to play and how are we going to win? And then how are we going to go and do that? All of those questions around how you're going to win, including people, partnerships, IP, capabilities that you're going to build, process that you need in place. It doesn't mean you have to do all of those things right now. But as a founder and as a leader of a growing business and a scaling business, you need to be aware that they exist and that they are pockets of work to be done at the right time for your business. It's when you're
Yeah.
unaware of them and other companies are getting better at these things than you are that you lose traction, I think.
I think you're right. And the other thing the team are really good at is, and heads focus on them, is they're the early barometer of how are we doing, because they know if we're getting it right or if we're getting it wrong, whether they're customer facing or operations facing or finance, I don't know the numbers, they're so on it that they'll really early say, hey, look, that bit's flying, but there's a problem over here. They just, they're on it so fast, and I love that. So for every reason I think my role will become more and more team focused, which is great. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that phase as we grow.
Talk to us about the bio and me consumer and shopper. You probably have a range of different ages, but could I suggest that they all have something that makes them all similar, brings them together? What is it about them?
So I don't know if you'll expect this or not, but we are a very strongly female brand. So we are about 75 to 80% female. In terms of categories we compete in, on demographics, we are a little bit younger than the average, but only a little bit. I think a lot of people look at Dr. Megan's social media following, etc., which is predominantly professional working women, 20s, 30s, etc. So they do skew us a bit younger, but actually, the way we grow, we're a better granola, we're a better kefir, so we're switching people in the categories to us, and therefore, actually, our average granola consumer is well into their 40s. Our kefir consumer is in their 30s, etc. So we're not quite as young as people might think. We do skew a bit young, but not so much. Geographically, we're pretty spread. I think income wise, we're again much more average because that premium we were talking about earlier really isn't so great, and then of course what we are is we are skewed towards people who are interested in their health.
What else are they buying? What else are they eating?
So the nice thing is we often compare if there's two big trends going on in food right now. I mean, there's lots of trends, but two mega trends from a sort of health benefit point of view, it's gut health and protein. And up until now, I think protein has been much more boy focused and gut health more girl. We're now seeing that start to change. And so we're bringing out some protein focused SKUs as well, because we know our female user base is interested in that now. So there used to be, if I think of some other brilliant, Fuel 10K, we were chatting about Barney, I always used to think of us as if it was a professional couple working. You'd open their food cupboard, there'd be Bio and Me, there'd be Fuel 10K, and they'd each have their own breakfast. Now I think we're starting to see a bit more switchover as the protein trend grows. So but they are interested in health. That's one of the things.
Do they eat avocados? I suppose everybody eats avocados, but is there something that brings all of these people together? Do they eat more fruit and vegetables than most people? Do they like to cook? What is it about them?
So interesting. So we were talking about our equity study earlier. We really zoomed in on us and what we stood for. So buying data and those kinds of data is tremendously expensive. So that sort of area we know less about. We know what they tell us when they write in, and I would say yes, definitely they are trying to eat in those ways. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're not. We're not the health nut. We're not the gym bunnies, the health nuts. We're not. These are people who enjoy life as well.
One of the big focuses on the mini MBA is we're asking everybody to understand their super consumers. So everyone's doing 5 calls a week and really getting down underneath the skin of these super consumers over and above demographics.
That's such a good idea.
And what we're asking them, what we're trying to establish is, and this comes from one of my heroes, marketing heroes, is a guy called Eddie Yoon of the category Pirates. So hi, Eddie, if you're listening. He won't be, but because he's a serious hero of mine. But he talks about what life quest normal people are on.
Right.
Because people buy into something like Bio and Me because they're on a life quest. What you're selling is not really granola, but you're selling the ability for them to try and achieve their life quest. And that might be just feeling better from the inside out, or that might be whatever. But there'll be other things that they use, because the other thing that Eddie teaches is that a super of 1 is a super of 9, which basically means a super consumer of one category is a super consumer of 9 other categories.
Right.
So we're also trying to establish what are the 9 other categories that your super consumers are supers of, because it can just paint such an amazing picture,
Oh, it's brilliant. And so literally you're getting the founders to speak to 5 of their
Yeah.
super consumers each week.
Yeah. And honestly, the value out of that, it's just incredible.
I'm going to start doing that. You're saying about you always from every conversation you take away one good idea. I'm going to take that away from this. I think that is brilliant, because that will beat doing all the different data studies, etc. But that's why when we're saying about replying to emails, anybody who's prepared to email in either because they love you or because there's something they want to have a moan about, but it means they care, and they're almost by definition putting themselves in that bracket. And it's why I love talking to them about it.
But you're already doing it.
I could do more though. I could do more.
I mean, you remember the days where you and I would have been working on, I don't know what brands we actually worked on, kind of pure branding together.
Nescafe a bit in food services.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about over the years where we would have been, had to go up north to do focus groups, and you'd be behind a screen in a focus group studio and there'd be a focus group going on and we'd be behind the screen watching some really, really skilled moderators moderating those focus groups and the questions that they would ask, or learning how to do a depth interview and learning how to ask the 5 whys without asking why, because consumers never know why. So
Right.
you have to say things like, and what does that do for you? And how does that make you feel? And, you start broad, tell me about breakfast, or tell me about your life, tell me about breakfast. But you don't just go in and say, do you like cereal? Do you like granola? And I think actually I might do some videos on this, because I think it's a real skill that we could very easily bring to our LinkedIn community and upskill everybody in this kind of super consumer, what to ask and how to ask the questions.
But I think that's the cleverness of you going to the super users is because they're so passionate, they will find it easier to talk about.
Yeah.
They are spending just that little bit more time thinking about it, and they're just that bit more enthusiastic. And because we're never going to turn ourselves into genius researchers, but follow the basic rules like you said, but talk to them, and they will.
Yeah.
They'll let you know what's going on.
They will. What about investment then?
So interesting. We haven't had to do a raise for a little while because partly because we wanted to, partly because where the world's got to, but we're now at that. I call it positive break-even stage, which doesn't mean to say we won't do investment again in the future, but it does mean that it becomes a choice as to whether you want to do it or not. You're doing it because you have a particular strategic initiative, maybe going international at some stage or whatever it might be, as opposed to filling up your P&L because you're still losing money. So I love the fact that we've got there. That is really important. And we haven't talked much about sustainability today, but doing business the right way, being a B Corp is important. But there's 2 elements of sustainability. There is the environmental social piece, but also as a business to be sustainable, you do need to make money. And I think, as ever, there are cycles on these things, but it did feel like it had gone out of fashion a bit. And actually, I now feel like we're a proper business. And I've noticed I love talking to other founders. I've got my little gang of founders we chat to. Definitely before, the thing people like to talk about, with how fast they were growing, how big their teams were, etc. Now it's, have you got to profit? That's the big topic, because people knows that means you're sustainable. So we haven't yet, but I think what I'm learning is the importance of those relationships. Because we've got 42 different investors. We've done all of our investment from private individuals. We've not brought on a VC, which means we have 42 people who can help us grow the business. They've all got some connection to food somehow, and therefore they can help. So keeping them updated, we had our 5th birthday party in November last year, and it was just really nice seeing them. And they want to help, and they want to help partly because they have invested and partly because they believe in gut health. The 2 things go together. So using them is really, I enjoy it. It's really good.
And will you be going back out to raise again, do you think, in the future?
There's no plan at the moment, but as I say, I think we want to stay focused on the core UK market now. But yes, I could imagine in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, if I think right now on our portfolio is wide enough, but there are other innovations that we would love to do that would require investment. So one of those may come along, but right now, no, I think we're happy as we are. I mean, Megan, when her and I chat, she could pretty much make a better for your gut version of in any category, and there are loads that we would love to go into. But this is one of my personal challenges for years, is the focus versus breadth, because you can get so excited about the new, but actually, and again, when we're talking about phases of growth, I think right now we're really into optimizing what we've got, just super polishing, obsessing about the pack design, obsessing about the quality of our ingredients on the inside, just trying to optimize everything so we grow the shares in the categories we're already in. I think that's our best way, as opposed to, here's the next shiny thing. But actually, no, we need to remember where our heartland is, and it is granola and it is kefir, yogurt and drinks. So we really want to zoom in on those. There will be other things that will come, but just obsessing about those, we've got, I think I referred to earlier, but we've got some very exciting new developments with our partnerships with our co-manufacturers are getting deeper and deeper. We're getting closer and closer. It's true on the dairy side. We've just gone through a 3-year planning phase. It's true on our granola, where we're doing some sort of almost like joint venture work. It's just really exciting, and I think that's how you win. Is just becoming better and better at the bits you already do. And I'm, along with the team we were talking about, I'm enjoying this phase of the business.
Well, on that note, John, I know you're coming up to your 11 o'clock team call.
Team
So
time, yes.
we've got only 9 minutes. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I love the
Thank
fact
you,
that it
Fee.
was
Thanks for having me back.
windy and conversational. So I know that was bothering you because you kept on mentioning it. But I think that's okay.
I was more trying to remember. I'm 54 now, Fee. I
know.
forget these things.
It's mad, isn't it?
You got to go back. I've got to remind myself.
It's mad. Older and wiser, should we say. Someone said to me the other day, actually, when I was speaking at Barilla earlier this week, and I was having the pleasure of having my makeup
saw you
done.
did that. Yeah.
For the first time in ages. And I said to the lady, try and blur out my wrinkles. And she said, in Italian, she said, they're not wrinkles. She said, an army general gets stripes for all of their years of service.
Oh, yeah.
She said, they're your army general years of service. And I thought, my God, that's a nice way of putting it.
She's good at what she does, isn't she?
Yeah, really good, really good. All right, so good to see you. Big hug.
You too.
And thank you so much for being on the show today.
See you again soon.
So that was Jon Walsh from BioMe. What a brilliant brand he and the team are building. What I love so much is how real Jon was. He said things like, we're still figuring out the balance between taste and health in our comms. And honestly, that kind of honesty is rare. Reassuring too, right? A few things really landed for me. One was Jon's realisation that strategy means nothing without excellent execution. Because at the end of the day, shoppers don't see your vision, they see your products on shelf. You have to have the vision, you have to have made the decisions, and a lot of work does go into that. But you've got to make sure that it's clear and makes sense on shelf. Your team is your early warning system. He says that the team really see when something is flying or failing, so make sure that you're capturing that insight and data from your team. And his obsession with still replying to customer service emails himself, because he knows that that's where the magic insight lives. So if this episode made you pause or take notes or rethink something in your own business, please do share it with a founder who'd benefit. And don't forget to hit follow in your podcast app so you never miss an episode. See you next time.